set myself up on a little spot on the lower Ovens River just before the junction with the Murray. This is a bit of a backwater, but a good looking little spot, and I might give it a half an hour or so. I hope there's something here. Not that I'm on any sort of time schedule. Oop, and there's a bite. Right, got one. What have we got? Oh, you wouldn't read about it. Have a look how dark that carp is. That's one of the blackest carp I think I've ever seen. Let's get him in the sun. That is really dark. Well, I optimistically bought my fish grips and pliers in case I got a cod, but I think this is just baby carp central. Just constant little rattly bites like this, and I'm not going to catch too many on the size hook that I'm using, so this could be a short sojourn. Oh, well, I almost got that snag out. I've got a huge lump of timber on the end of this. Now if this was a fish, it'd make life a bit more interesting. I think that's just, as they say, the thin end of the wedge. There's a lot of weight on the bottom of this. Look at that. Now the question is you going to be able to get it back? And the other rod's going nuts. Well, I managed to get it back. Managed to grab the whole log and pull it out. So I think, given the fact there's no bait left on this, I'll leave this one out and give this other one a couple of minutes before I head off. That was lucky. Yep, as I suspected, baby carp. Look at that, it's not even a handful. If I wanted to catch carp, I'd switch to corn. I was really hoping for a cod or yellow belly. Nah, I just don't think that's going to happen here, that's for sure. Alright, this will probably be the last cast, because I'm not going to spend the session feeding little babies like this. So when these worms are gone, that's it. Okay, they've cleaned me up again, so I won't persevere here, even though it's a really pretty spot. I'll have to move on along the Murray. So a couple of hours later, I've made my way up to the junction of the Campaspe and Murray rivers at Echuca, and I'm going to give this a bit of a try, soaking worms and maybe even some corn. I suspect there's going to be lots of carp, but then you just never know with other species. Problem is, lots of ski boats, lots of pleasure boats going up and down the river, lots of noise. Not my ideal scenario at all, but got to take what you can. I'm staying at Echuca tonight, I've got a few hours to burn. So this is the Campaspe, which I fished a few days back, and it was a very different river to this. So one in already. I'm just throwing out near the centre. It doesn't seem to be very deep. And yeah, trial and error. See if I get some bites. Never seen so much boat traffic and dogs. I think this place is a bit too noisy. A few years ago, or probably more than a few years ago, I would have found that a lot of fun. As I'm getting older and crustier, I just find it aggravating. So I've had a couple of little nibbles here. I'm pretty sure I know what they are, so I think I'm going to move up that way, try and find a nice little spot that I can get away from all this noise. Well, there you go, that's the culprits as expected. So I think a move is in order. Look at that. You wouldn't even call that a fish finger. The funny thing is, there's so many fish out here. A dangling worm in the water, it's been in for 5 minutes, hasn't been touched, and there's little carp swimming around everywhere. All I can say is I hope the natives have bred as successfully as the carp have. Because crikey, there's a lot of feed in here. I don't know if you can see this on the camera, but there are hundreds of little carp swimming around down here. Hundreds. So with this much food in the water, I can't see any of the bigger predators wanting to look at a worm. Most of these are sort of 2 to 3 inches. There are hundreds and hundreds. As far as you can see one by that leaf, 2 by those leaves. You seriously could take 1 million out of this river, it wouldn't make any difference. They're just everywhere. And I wouldn't be surprised if most of those are carp as well. I'm afraid our river is in for a bit of a trial for the next few years. So, I stopped at this spot just out of Serpentine near Bendigo. I thought it looked like it might be worth a try, and it's the Loddon River. Threw my line in, and within 5 seconds I had caught a carp, which is resting on the bank over here. So I might persevere a little bit longer and see if I can't get something a bit more interesting. I also found a rod holder. Thank you very much. Another bite. Of course, if this just proves to be another carp fest, I'll move on. Well, I'm on again, and it's another little scumbag carp. No, it's not. Take it back. It's a silver perch. And that's the first one that I've caught in Victoria. Little silver perch. Pretty little fish. You can go back. I just donated another perfectly good South Australian sinker to Victoria, so I might stay away from that snaggy area, even though it's probably where the good fish will be. Got a bite here. Come on, you know you want it. Gotcha. Oh, what is this? Oh, he got off. I don't believe it. He broke the hook off. That was a good fish. Bugger. Okay, re-rigged. I'll put money on that being either a cod or a big yellow belly, the way that took off. That was solid. Very frustrating when that happens. Now just snap the hook, or snap the line. Ah well. I think I might stick it out a bit longer if there's fish like that around. That was 12-pound line that it broke. So, I don't know, maybe there was a bit of a nick in it. Should have been plenty of strength in the line to land that. But anyway, you saw it. It really went. Well, it's gone very quiet. Just a few more little rattly bites. So I think it's about time to move on. This morning finds me on the banks of the Wimmera River at Horsham, opposite the caravan park that I stayed in last night. As usual, I have absolutely no idea what to expect, but the water looks quite nice. It's quite clear, and I've heard that there's a fair range of fish to be caught in here. So I'm going to give it a go for a couple of hours. There are some nice weed beds too, which would have to attract fish. I've only got worms, so we'll just have to see how they go. Oh no, I have got some corn, but I don't really want to catch carp. Okay, 2 paternoster rigs, 1 hook on each, nice juicy worms, let's go. The water looks to be very shallow here, so it may be a matter of moving around and trying to find some deeper holes. Well, I have a fish, and it's a tiny little redfin. Well, there you go, my first redfin in Victoria. So there we go. Not exactly a monster. Another bite. Well, this is no redfin. What have I got here? You wouldn't read about it, would you? It's a carp. I don't know, all this way and catch carp. Still, a fish is a fish. You can see that flat water just out in front of me, about 10 metres. That's a huge weed bed. I'm fishing just on the inshore side of it, but it's very shallow. Well, I think it's more of the same. Another little redfin, a little bit bigger than the last one, but at least this one hasn't scoffed it. There we go. We're on again. I think this might be another carp. It sure is. That was a pretty solid bite too. Not that it's a big fish, but good bite. I can see a rather good looking reed bed further up there, and this is very shallow and very carpy, so I might move up there. Right, I've moved. There's the reed bed that I was talking about. It's a big snag just there. The water certainly looks deeper, and there doesn't appear to be those big weed beds that I hit up the other end. So I've only got a limited number of worms. I'll give this a try for a little while, and hopefully won't get carp. Well, depth is all relative, isn't it? I thought it would be deeper here. It doesn't seem to be a lot deeper at all. And the wind today is fierce once again. Right, I just had a bit of a touch on this one. Wasn't very positive, but you never know. And having said that I couldn't see weed beds here, now the sun's a little bit higher, I can see heaps of weed. So I get the impression this is just a very shallow lake. Full stop. And when I say shallow, I'm talking a couple of feet. It doesn't look very much more than that. I did try one exploratory cast out towards the middle, and the angle on the line suggests it's pretty shallow. Right, well, I've got a fish. What is it? It's a catfish, and he's taken me round a stick. Well, let's see if I can get him out. I don't know that I can. Let's get him in the net. Well, a little bit of tree surgery later, and I've got him. How about that? And I have to say, it's not very often catfish guts your hooks, but this one has. There we go. Thanks for coming. Well, that's going to need a re-rig, but another species in Victoria, I'm doing pretty well. An hour on, and apart from that catfish, I haven't had another bite. So I think I'll be packing up pretty soon. I might go and check out the weir. I've no idea whether the water's actually running over the weir, but I'll go and have a look at that. I might see if I can get some more worms, and then I might head up the river a bit, or actually down the river a bit towards Dimboola. Still in Horsham. I've moved down to Wimmera Lake to a place called Weir Park. The actual weir itself is down there in the distance. The water is running over, but downstream is very snaggy. So I'll have a try here for half an hour and then head for Dimboola. I see the same weed beds that I saw further up the lake, and it looks rather carpy. I'm on weed everywhere, and I fear, yes, it's exactly what I thought it was. It's a carp. Get out of those sticks. I can catch these in Adelaide. What about some better fish? I've been here 20 minutes. I've had the one bite for the one carp. I suspect carp is all I'm going to catch here, so I think very shortly I'll move on. Nice spot. Very shallow, very weedy, very carpy. I'm at Dimboola, still on the Wimmera River, and I found this really cool little fishing spot, probably someone's private dock. I hope they won't mind if I fish here for a little while. So I've got extra light, left all the gear in the car, and I'll chuck in a couple of lines and see what happens. The river's quite big here compared to what it was at Horsham. There's a bit of a splash up there. Looks interesting. So I think I'll go big with the baits, give myself the best chance. Get that one a bit further out. Yeah, I reckon maybe 1.5 meters. Wouldn't say much more. So no rod rests, just lay it down. Let's see how it goes. Very relaxing, got my own seat and everything. In the shade, what more could you ask for? My first bite. Not really what I was after. Oh, well, one less stick to get caught on next time, I suppose. Oh, it's a lovely spot. Let's just hope there's some fish here. Well, would you look at that. Tiny little redfin. I was just bobbing that worm up and down in very shallow water, so let's see if he's got any friends. Yes, he has. Yep, there's a touch. Must be small. Ooh, that's a carp. Oh dear. What is it with me and carp? I catch carp in a water barrel. Well, it seems like I'm wasting my time fishing out in the deep water. The fish are all in close. We'll try that again, shall we? Yep, they're at it again. And another one. Oh, well, this is good fun. No size to them, but what the hell? What's this? Another redfin. And by the way, in case you're wondering, it's actually not illegal to release redfin in Victoria. It's like shooting fish in a barrel. Yep, 2 seconds in the water and you got a fish. Open wide, smile for the camera. Thanks for coming. Well, you can only catch so many of those little redfin before the gloss wears off. So yes, 2 feet out from the bank in 2 feet of water. Time to move on and look for something else. Well, here's a cool looking fishing spot. This is a weir just downstream from where I was fishing before. It looks awfully snaggy, so I think this is going to be a cast in your line and pack it in when you lose your gear, because I can't stay for too long. But looks good. That's if I don't break an ankle getting there. Someone's obviously fished here before. Yeah, out on that little point, I think. This definitely looks like a worthwhile spot to try, and I would say a good spot for yellow belly and the like, but all these rocks are a bit of a worry. I think I'll need to get fairly well out from them. Only use one rod at a time, and if I break it off, swap rods, and if I break them both off, go. Would also be a good spot for lure fishing, I think, if only I had some. That water is the colour of weak tea. Weir pools are always a worthwhile spot to try. Bit too wobbly, those rocks, for an old fart like me, so I've come back to this much more comfortable fishing spot. I'll tell you what, if there's a predator in here, you'd think it would be right here. 15 minutes. Well, it's been 15 minutes and surprisingly, not a bite. But I tell you what, it's a good looking spot, particularly would like that sandbar over there. Never mind.